Welcome in everybody, welcome into today's flight up to Scotland. We're going back in the Cessna Citation 560XL. We're going to be flying from a little island in the south of the UK called the Isle of Wight. I had two options. I had the Sandown option, which, let's face it, after reviewing it, it was a grass runway. It was pretty small and I didn't want to risk it with this jet. Secondly, we had Bembridge, and that was a little bit better, but it's still a relatively small airport. So we're going to be flying from Bembridge up to Scotland. I think we've got Edinburgh planned, since that's where the corporate guys are going. But yeah, it's going to be about an hour 45 minutes, looking like good weather en route. And I'm hoping that when we arrive we may finally get to see the weather radar in action at least, or at least some kind of functionality out of the plane, because it's not great, I'm not going to lie, but it's still, it does the basics. But last night I tried to take off from an airport and the undercarriage just kept collapsing, so that seems to be a feature on this aircraft, which I think it might be a problem. The aircraft just keeps breaking constantly. It's got nothing to do with rough landings, I don't know what it is, it's something to do with the hydraulics. But anyway, we're going to get the battery connected, we're going to go here and get in the cockpit. I like to do the walk around like this, just makes it a bit more realistic. The aircraft is in shape to be flown, so you can see the covers have come off now, so we can get in and get started. I do like the cabin, it's very posh. Anyway, in the seat, we're not going to be messing around today. So since we're not following the checklists, if anyone watched that last stream doing the review of the aircraft, it took us a long time doing it with the checklists. But today we don't need that at all. Of course, the yoke is by default off when it should be on. I have talked about that. Please go back and watch that review if you want some advice about this aeroplane. So let's start obviously with the basics. I haven't connected anything, so we'll have to get started pretty quickly. The only thing I've connected to really is the ATC services, but there's none available, so we might have to wait. So let's get the fuel boost on. So we just tested the emergency battery and there's good voltage on each. Real mode, of course, I'm going to show you a few more features when we're flying. I did have trouble getting up to 45,000. This plane slows down a heck of a lot, so you have to use pretty much nearly 100% N1 to maintain that current altitude, so it's a lot less powerful than Citation X. Avionics on. Now we can do with this APU or without it. I'm going to skip the APU since it's one of the few aircraft that doesn't need one. It's actually quite a good thing. I love it that you can't, you don't need the APU. You know, it's APU takes up a lot of time and a lot of fuel as well. So let's get the clocks on. We don't have an hour and 45 estimated. I'm hoping to do more flights in this. I'm just hoping that it doesn't break as much on the flights, of course. So let's get the windshield heat. Let's get what do we want for the lights? It's pretty bright outside, so we can leave them like that. Okay, navigation lights, passenger safety lights. Let's just check the passenger. So I read on the manual, the real aircraft manual, and I have been looking it up, by the way, so if anyone's watching this on catch up, just be aware that I do read about the planes before I fly them. I don't go into these with absolutely zero knowledge, so I read the manual online to some extent, although there is a lot to get through. I'm talking about the real manual for the real plane, not the one that comes with the aircraft, which is online. I'm talking about the real Citation 560XL pilot operating handbook, and of course the aircraft manual. And that will describe the systems, and there's a thing in there about pitot heat, about it heats up very quickly, so there is a risk that you will damage the system if you put it on too early. So I'd recommend leaving it off until just before takeoff. In terms of startup, you want to get the instruments on as soon as. You want to do the fail test as soon as well. Just be aware, in order to set standard pressure, you click the middle of that and it'll go to 1013, but in order to do it properly, you go up here to set data and click that, because then it'll come up with standard, and that is the correct way of doing it. And then of course when you change it, it will go back to whatever. So there's the birds I was talking about. More birds on X-Plane 12.2. Current transition level 3000 feet. We want Q and H, so I haven't used Avitab yet. Let's get Avitab up. Aviation tablet. So we're straight out taxi. We've actually had the aircraft in maintenance at Bembridge. We're right next to the hangar. You see where there's the hangar. There's only one other plane here, a few other planes over there. But yeah, we had to get some maintenance on the landing gear. We had a few incidents which I think might be a bug in the system. Anyway, charts, I have got the flight plan downloaded. You'll notice it'll be from the wrong airport because when I initially spawned in I went to Sandown, which is just completely unsuitable. I know this aircraft is okay for short field operations, but with the landing gear situation I really don't want to risk it. Anyway, Isle to Edinburgh. Let's get the fuel in the iOS station. In terms of loading it up, 1500. That's not too bad. Total payload about 849. So we've already got 2379. We've got plenty of fuel. We don't really need to get rid of fuel. We do need to check the weigh and balance properly. Okay, so we're supposed to be going direct to Sam, but because we're departing a completely different airport, this airport's Sundown we're departing from. I didn't download a new flight plan just to save time, and that way we can go direct to MCT, which is in Manchester. Okay, so we're straight there. When we're just going to depart wherever the wind is when we depart. We'll check that on when we take off. Cargo 96, so we've got 145 at the moment. Sometimes it'll be different to what's put on SimBrief. You know, depends how much people are bringing, but 96 is quite realistic. 731 on payload. Let's see if we've underestimated the weight. So we've overestimated the weight, so let's just reduce them. 730. So that goes right the first time, about 70 kg. We'll give you that number. I'm going to do that for all the characters. All the passengers are 765. And again, we may be overestimating or underestimating weight, but we don't know everyone's weight. It's just a game of 731. We're 761, so that's as close as we're going to get. Zero fuel weight, so it's a little bit of a pain. We don't really have a weight and balance on this aircraft, so you can't figure out what the empty weight is. So gear actuator is not working because the system's not on. But yeah, we don't know the zero fuel weight of the aircraft because we can't get it on the FMC. We can't get that information, so we'll have to skip it. We need the Q&H. I'm going to set it nice and early today. Okay. Q&H. Usually we'd have a departure page, but nothing's coming up. It's not an unusual thing, actually. It does happen sometimes. On flight plans, you won't get a departure page with takeoff, airport, etc. Usually it's after the flight plan filing page. Yeah, so you get to that, and then you get there, and then it'll be on this one. It's a different layout. I think that's what's throwing me off. Alternate airport will be Newcastle. So we're in the United Kingdom, of course. I'm using a United Kingdom livery, although in the UK we don't really have numbers in the tail numbers. It's usually just letters, so that could be changed to entirely letters. Let's go ahead and get started before the battery drains itself. It has already gone down to about 22. What do we need? So let's stick that on normal first. Number 1 starting. Fairly fast to spool up. Introduction of fuel. And very loud aircraft indeed. I think we should probably fly to Scotland a little bit more. Give me a second and close that door and very loud. That's better. Yeah, so we should probably fly Scotland a bit more. It's quite scenic. There's a lot of territory there we can explore. There's a lot of small islands as well. Some of the most challenging airports in Scotland, Barra Airport, for example, is... Okay, doors pressurised. I hope the sound is sufficient. I have turned the game volume up so you can hear me, but it's still coming up as very quiet. So I'll have to... You know, hopefully you guys give me feedback. I can try and adjust it, but the cockpit is in general very quiet. And the ATC is going to be super loud because I'm cranking the volume up super loud for the desktop audio as well. Okay, engine 1 is gone. Let's get the generators on. Number 2 on. Ignition to on for the first engine. There we go. Actually, the N1 for the number 1 engine went up, then N2 went up as well. Maybe it's because the generator wasn't on. Normal ignition, fuel boosts. What's the warning says? Piezo heats. We're pretty much ready to depart. Let's get the beacons. No need for tail flood. We'll get the taxi lights on as well. Nobody on control. We have EGHJ. That's nowhere near United Kingdom, I don't think. We're going to be tuning Unicom. Thankfully, it's an even number. I have talked about this before, so let's tune in. 122.8. Thankfully, it's even. Otherwise, it wouldn't be in there. Let's go on flight plan. Let's see if we can actually pull up a flight plan. I don't know how to do it on this system. If anyone does know and they have an easy way to do it, that'd be great. I think at one point I may have done it, may have brought it up. Right. I don't know. Flight plan, aviation tablet. So there's the flight plan on there. Keep the second page open so you can see it. So we may just be better off programming it in manually, because otherwise it could take a while finding it. Anyway, MCT is direct. That's the Manchester beacon, I think. Or DME marker, whatever you want to call it. Okay, yeah, so it's the MCT is the Manchester DME there. Or VOR, possibly. Okay, select that as one in Philippines. I didn't know that, that's very cool. Right. Enter. After Manchester, we direct to TLA. This will be the Scotland control region. I don't think they'll be on in Scotland control. I don't think the Scottish into the planes as much, or maybe they are. I'll have to visit Edinburgh possibly and do a video there. That'd be nice. Oh, Tala. Okay. And I believe the Edinburgh airport doesn't actually have an ILS. Well, it might have an. It doesn't have the proper approach procedures. You can see we're literally flying direct to a major airport, so there's no standard arrival procedures. Okay, that's it. That's as simple as it gets. I'm not sure how to program the vertical navigation system. If somebody has a knowledge of that, maybe a real pilot. And I have deliberately left the chat open to everyone as well, so that real pilots can come in and assist me now or at some point during the flight. But yeah, it'd be good to get feedback on how to do this, or even somebody who's an ex-plane player, because I don't know how to work the Garmin properly. I prefer the FMCs, which are usually down on the central console. Okay, so after TLA we need to put the airport name in, of course. Standard United Kingdom, so EG, Great Britain. P for Papa, and then hotel. Edinburgh, Scotland. There we go. If we click back on flight plan, I think we can set here for altitude 43,000 feet. I hope the plane can actually stay at that altitude. Right. 43,000. It's so much easier. You could just put this in with digits using the FMC. 43,000 feet for the C-560XL. Now let's see if it's going to work. Enter. Yeah, that's worked. And then we'll just leave it at 43,000. So now the VNAV profile is filled out for us. I don't know what the descent rate will be. Like I say, the FMC would literally calculate all this for you. It would give you the airways, altitudes, etc. Well, if ATC is available, it might do it for us. Right, we're ready to depart. Transponder on squawk code, I think. Let's go 3, 2, 1, 7. One notch of flaps. Flight controls. 3 incorrect. Rudder, 3 incorrect. Edinburgh traffic, Golf Sierra 9, Romeo 9, taxi into the runway. Let's get the runway actually while we're here. Let's check the wind. It's the same 30. We got a crosswind, so I don't think it matters. We're gonna have to take 30 anyway because that one's a grass runway and completely too small for us. Excuse me a sec. I'm going to turn the cockpit volume up to max on this particular plane. Brake check successful. Very soft on the brakes. I've almost got the Prism software full volume for the game, so if it's still quiet afterwards, I don't really know what to do regarding that. I can only suggest turning it up on the TV, unfortunately. I'll try to balance it out sometime later, especially with the voice. I don't want the voice to be blaring out without the aircraft sounds. So it looks like we're going to be backtracking runway 30, full length. Since it's a short runway departure, we're going to do a standard short field takeoff, which will be usually advance the thrust significant amount of the way, and then we'll release the brakes. Quick reverse check. Spoilers. Yeah, all systems are working. And N1 bugs at 120. We probably want about 90%. It's going to be a quick climb up. When we get to 10,000 feet, I'll pitch down and we start to pitch for about 250 knots. So standard climb out speed about 225. Pitch down for after 10,000 for 250. And after 250, we'll go up to 18. We get to about 18, 20,000. I'll pitch down again. So yeah, in terms of getting the flight director up, you can obviously wind data is important, but so is flight director. You have an option here, obviously 2 different aircraft symbols, and you have navigation, GPS, we need GPS. Trying to figure out where it is. There it is. So you can select it down there, but it won't activate until the autopilot is functional. Let's just check your damper. Yeah, your damper tends to be on default on this aircraft. Strobes, and we're going to do TCAS pulse lights, which is normal for a little jet like this. I've seen them before on older jets. Edinburgh traffic, Golf Sierra 9, Romeo 9 is backtracking full length, runway 30 for departure. Let's get backtracking runway 30. We've got the wind direction, we've also got it on our thing down there. We need to set the runway heading actually, so let's set 30. And course wise, we're going straight up, so what's the course on that? Somewhere to the north. Set course to 330, I think. 345 is coming up with the green arrow. She's her heats. So all the warnings have gone off now. We are actually cleared. Excuse me, cleared for takeoff. Unofficially. 3,000 feet initial altitude, just in case something goes wrong, and then we'll climb straight up to 43,000 feet. The things I love about the plane is it has an automatic ground idle feature. You'll notice on the Citation X that's got a small switch of the throttle quadrant. So this plane is really lightweight, it has the power of a rocket. It can actually climb pretty damn quick, and it can take off relatively quick as well. So you'll be at about 80 knots with probably less than 5 seconds. I'd say less than 5 seconds, and then in the air in less than 10 seconds. It's a relatively quick thing. We'll probably do. Can we do the timer? I don't think we have an option to do it. Usually we'd be on the control function. Going to apply the brakes. Short field takeoff. Short runway takeoff. Advance the thrust. We didn't do the rotary test. Let's just do that now. I have noticed in this plane the stall doesn't work. The stall warning. Tried to stall last night, well below stall speed, and it wasn't sounding the alarm. The aircraft is simply falling out of the sky with no warning whatsoever. Okay, we're ready to depart. Here we go. And one set. So there's that 80 knots. Short runway takeoff. V1 rotate. Just in time. So that shows just how capable the aircraft actually is at departing from short runway, so gear up. Bit of trim there, keep it about 15 degrees. I'm going to pitch to the right and go to the north. Okay, we can turn the flight director on in the air, that's handy. And flaps up. Pitch down, maintain 225. So it says, I think it says 260 on here for the reference speed. But 225 is probably more appropriate. Hydraulic pressure. We didn't turn ignition on, did we? So let's get the fuel boost on the set. Fuel boost would usually help the hydraulics because on this particular aircraft model, the hydraulics are powered by the engines. Okay, there's 240. We're actually climbing a lot faster than I was hoping for. I'm not going to reduce or thrust too much. We'll reduce it down to climb. We won't reduce it too much. We'll pitch down about 10 degrees. There's 8,000 feet. We're transponding? No, we're not. We didn't have a transponder on. So there's the map. It does have the functional terrain radar. The weather radar apparently only works when there's bad weather, so it'll be interesting to see that. And you'll notice when we're higher up, we are going to put that into takeoff position because we need a lot of thrust, usually above 30,000 feet. Okay, can we engage the autopilot? So we want navigation. Usually you can click it before the autopilot. Light level change. 30,000 feet. Engine and wing anti-ice on. So yeah, the autopilot's a little bit hit and miss with the buttons. It's it works that time. That's good. So sometimes it doesn't work. So flight level change or altitude. Let's click nav. So it'll follow the L nav and hopefully follow the... if I select V nav, hopefully it should go up to 43,000 feet. It's climbing at too high a rate though, at 4,000 feet a minute, which is not good. So you might want to change it to vertical speed and then adjust it that way. Of course, the knob is down here, which, if you know anything about jets, can be a little bit of a pain to operate in a simulator. So let's reduce that down to about 3,000 feet a minute. You see it there, ASEL. So we're above transition level. We're going to do standard pressure, 103. Didn't check the local QNH, but it's not a problem. We're climbing so fast, it's not going to affect us for that long. Pressurization, this plane is also strange. So in a usual aircraft, it would be pressurized by now, but the aircraft doesn't pressurize, so that could be a bug in the system. I've noticed sometimes it won't pressurize to your at least over 20,000 feet, which is not realistic. The oxygen is needed. Prior to that, oxygen is on auto. You can turn it on. Okay, there's comm radar, we're not even transmitting, so there's some features in the aircraft I'm still getting to grips with, and that's one of them. You need to have the comm one on for communications. Pressurization is not working, so I think flight level might be needed. Usually 8,000 feet for pressurization. Yeah, the up-down function emergency dump doesn't tend to work either. If you go on view, so sometimes the oxygen mask is on, but we haven't blacked out and we haven't pressurized, so there must be oxygen in the plane. Anyway, landing lights off, seatbelt signs off. We're going to continue climbing now. I'm going to reduce that rate a little bit more, just to maintain the correct speed. On track we have about 146 nautical miles to Manchester. TCAS is on. If you want the chat list, they'll be on this central console. Just like that, there's no emergency chat lists. It seems like there's hardly anyone online. Let's have a look in the cabin. It looks like a fantastic day again for flying the C-560XL. I'll try and do a flight in this when it's winter as well, so you can see the performance in cold weather and snow. That would be good. See all the ice and things on the wings. Yeah, there's the engine. So I've noticed on the engine it looks kind of strange. I think that's because you can see the bit behind the fan that doesn't move, but it should still spin to some extent. But there's usually a fixed part behind the fan which won't move. Anyway, it looks a bit odd. Anti-ice on. 2,500 feet a minute. Increase that thrust. About 90% N1. I have to say, short field performance of this. By the way, this is the Isle of Wight, ladies and gentlemen. It's the United Kingdom. Yeah, so the short performance is fantastic. That runway is, you know, that's not grass, but it's certainly as short as a grass runway would be, and I would say this aircraft is more than capable of doing that, especially if it was a grassy airfield, which we'll have to. I'll do it at some point. I mean, the runway length, you should have asked for it. Maybe we could have got it off the controller, but that wasn't the normal runway length, let's put it that way. So the aircraft did really well on that, and then we did a solid departure to the north, going past Leon Solent, past some birds again, past another plane. We're already speeding through the south of England. If you do remember, I did a stream a while back, a couple of months, where explored the south of England in the Beechcroft Barren. We landed at Banbridge in the Barren, but it was north of England. Boscombe Down, very famous. I don't think I'll go any more than 8,000 feet. You wouldn't want to go any more than 9,000 feet. Pressurization internal, as long as the differential is not in the red zone, that you're absolutely fine. Okay, fuel boost. Let's get the fuel boost to normal. No warnings on the annunciation panel. Cockpit recirculation fan is functional. Now, with the landing gear, I don't know how to lock in place. I don't know how to change it to lock, so it's constantly unlocked. Even if it's up, it's constantly in the unlocked position, so there's no way to change that as far as I can tell. And if anyone can tell me, that would be great. 75 degrees, so there's some inconsistencies in the temperatures as well. So up here you've got Celsius, which is the United Kingdom, we use Celsius. Yeah, and then Celsius over here, but then you've got Celsius and Fahrenheit. I don't understand the reason for that. And down here it's in Fahrenheit as well. I mean, say 23 degrees Celsius, which is 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Cabin lights. Let's just show you the lights. Have we got emergency power on? No, we haven't. So we skipped a few checks in this aircraft, and they've not really done much for the performance of the plane. They've not affected major systems. They've not caused anything to break. Got cabin lights. So they light up. You've got cabin lights there, but not very bright. And then you've got you have got them along the top, but not along the bottom. Unfortunately, when you're outside the aircraft, you can see the lights from this door shining through the wall of the plane, which again, another bug. So this aircraft is 100% not bug free, that's for sure, but it's still enjoyable to engage with. That's keeping me on edge a little bit. Okay, what we are, we're under, our speed is dropping rapidly. We're going to have to slow the ascent rate now. Cross 34,000, increase that thrust. 93%, so it's quite low thrust at this altitude. Just as long as we don't drop speed. It's supposed to be cruising at 401 knots, or at 338. On your flights today, you can choose mine or the co-pilot. This is just a warning about APU. Some buttons up here which can also be changed. I haven't seen them operate at all. Bias heater, it hasn't changed. Phone call. Okay, so it says fire extinguisher located on a co-pilot seat. It's a legal requirement. It's a requirement to fly the aircraft, and it isn't actually an aircraft fire extinguisher on board. I had a look under the seat, there's nothing there. Just to prove the point, there's absolutely nothing under the seat. So in the event of a fire, we would be in a pretty dangerous situation. So there's nothing under there, so I'm not taking the time to model. spot. We're going to reduce that climb now, maybe about 1,000 feet per minute. We're at 41,000 already. $41,500, flight level 450. And we'll change the Mach. Should be able to fly about 6.5, 0.55 at least. We're not even at 200 knot, barely going up to the speed we need. You have got to be so careful as well with the engine thrust, so as maximum, as high up as you can go. It's obviously if the ITT shoots it, you have to reduce it, and that can reduce, of course, your speed even more. So we're almost at 43,000. So we've actually done pretty well. So if the speed builds up, we would be able to maintain a decent cruising altitude. It's just very slow compared to the Citation X. The Citation would easily be able to do, a good 250 plus at this altitude. If it was on this much thrust at least. So these engines, I think they're obviously not going to be as much in terms of pounds per pounds thrust. I had it up on the document last night. I'll try and find it now to tell you. So it says if it's at 35,000 feet, it can do 429 knots. So that's at, we're nearly at maximum cruise. Maximum cruise is 44,000. We've reached altitude with no issues though. And I think I'll maintain that, as long as the speed doesn't increase rapidly, we'll maintain about that N1 to about 92 N1. Okay, PW-500 series engines, derated from 19.9, 4,450 pounds. Derated the engines because they were too powerful. I mean, that is insane. It's already got the power of, considerable force like a rocket. So, yeah, and now it's down to 3,800 pounds per engine. Northern thrust reverses are standard and allows the engines to cruise at 432 knots. Of course, that depends on the weight and the altitude. We're about 404, so that is the cruising speed we had programmed in. We have 401 knots for our cruise speed on the flight plan. So that's actually pretty normal, I'd say. So that translates to 198 on the airspeed indicator there.
Birmingham traffic, looking 708 finals, runway 15, 4 miles. Birmingham traffic, loading 708, vacated runway 15.
just quickly checking in. Flight's going actually relatively well now, so now we're going to get to the interesting part of the United Kingdom. We're going to start to be entering Scotland soon. Just gone past the Manchester VOR DME. As you see down there, MCT Manchester, it's actually looking pretty big, so we transitioned their airspace unofficially because there's no Vatsim controllers on, so we had to do it without them. But yeah, flight's going well. So got Blackpool to go past, so Blackpool's over here on the left, the Echo Golf November Hotel, very good airport. It's also suitable for the Citation, as you know from the other flight I did from Biggin Hill. We went up to Blackpool, which was nice to get to the beach. Anyway, after Blackpool we're heading up to the north. I think about this point, when we start to see all these rocks and mountain formations, that'll be Scotland when we start to enter it. Terrain radar's already picking up on something there. No weather to complain of at the moment, there's nothing significant. We're flying so high up at 43,000 that we don't need to be too concerned about it. We're pretty much out the weather at the moment. The only thing that we need to be concerned with is potential turbulence. be a good idea to program some sort of arrival. We have direct TLA, and then we think direct to Edinburgh Airport. So I think we're just about entering the Scotland region, just about. We've gone past Blackpool. Try and get the map up. Distance, yeah. So according to this, TLA next waypoint is at 93 nautical miles, and then there's Edinburgh. I hope we get low. We'll have to descend and we'll have to look at the scenery as well, because it's beautiful down there. You can see all the hills, all the valleys, of course. We all know X-Plane 12 doesn't have the best graphics for scenery, but I mean, then again, the new update's looking fantastic. I just wish they would add the same kind of surface level textures and scenery you get in Microsoft Flight Simulator, because, you know, realistic, very realistic, and it would elevate my experience anyway. I think the update is good. Didn't talk about it much the other day, but yeah, very good. But it's just still haven't gone for that realistic Earth look on the bottom. Basically, they only need to implement the satellite imagery, and it would put it in there for them. You know, they wouldn't have to photograph it themselves, just use satellite imagery and paste it over the top. Anyway, arrival, let's go down to procedures. So, we don't have an arrival, just to show you. Oh, we do have an arrival. My mistake. We're not going to do an arrival, we're just going to do an approach, because SimBrief hasn't given us the star procedures today, so even though we're IFR, we're not following any stars or SIDS. One way we landed, I think it landed runway 24, yes, runway 24. Nice big airport in Edinburgh, quite a cool terminal as well. So they've got an ILS, they've got an NDB, and they've also just got the option to go for the localizer, so we're going to go for the ILS. We're actually going to use the ILS features in this aircraft. We are going TLA, that's our waypoint. Right, I'm going to load it for now because we're just on the way to TLA. Have we got enough course? No, we haven't. When we get up to TLA, it's going to take us to the right, I'm assuming, to the final. In fact, let's just activate what happens after the approach. I hope it doesn't fly somewhere else after the approach. TLA, so we do direct, and that will take us to the arrival procedures. So it will take us straight to the approach that way. So from TLA, yeah, up to the approach runway 24. So coming in over the sea there. And if you know Scotland, you'll know there's some really isolated places, although well known. You've got Aberdeen, Inverness. There's a far up north. Current cruise speed 405 TAS, true airspeed. About 0.708 Mach, with a slight crosswind there, 282 degrees. Saying 66, I don't think that's very accurate, is it? Hello, finders. Be aware, finders, as usual. There seems to be a delay on the stream. License to fly today up to Scotland. In fact, talking about license to fly, James Bond's from Scotland, unofficially. Now we've just been given the news about the new director for the new James Bond, so fingers crossed they bring in a good one. About Friday for me, finders. Looking forward to it. I think I'm going to head out of the weekend and watch a movie. I need to catch up on Mission Impossible as well. I took on a lot about movies because there's not really much out other than the, you know, standard action films. You got that Mission Impossible film I want to watch. It's really cool, the part 1. Tom Cruise, of course, doing all his own stunts at about 60 years old. These clouds are just absolutely incredible. The detail, I mean, before it would look akin to these ones down here, but now with the 12.2 version released, they just look really, really fluffy and realistic. I haven't seen any UFOs though yet, so that's unfortunate. Hey, we got other traffic at Edinburgh Airport. There's our right approach there, right there, 24. Good to see other planes in the Scotland region. I'm going to start descending because I want to see some of this terrain down below. I don't think we should be just sat up here watching the clouds. So let's go ahead and get down to the TLA waypoint, and then we can start descending further. It's probably the top of the descent now anyway. There's not really any proper way to calculate it, unfortunately, so we just have to guess. There is a proper form that can be used, but I can't be bothered to do it, to be honest. I'm not today, I'm a bit too lazy. So let's go vertical speed mode, let's get that on, and then just descend using that. So we descend about 1,000 feet a minute, just reduce that thrust a little bit. Sorry, 2,000 feet a minute, hopefully. Keep an eye on the VSI, vertical speed indication, of course. reduce the thrust speed. Remember, we're very high up, so we don't want to cause the aircraft to overspeed and break its wings, etc. We'll go down to about 14,000 feet. You should be able to see the land from that altitude. That'll be enough. Finding the local frequencies, we've got ILS 108.9. All the frequencies were not on the game, we're on ATC Vatsim, so hopefully somebody will come online. What's the weather like? Okay, the weather's actually pretty harsh in terms of the wind. We have a 60 knot crosswind there. Or maybe a headwind, so about 16 knots. 109 for the QNH. 108.9 frequency. It's already programmed in. Fantastic. And it is the active frequency as well on nav 1 and nav 2. There's the anti-ice broke. We had anti-ice on, but the lights have gone off. Another thing that I've noticed, obviously in this aircraft, is the lights on the annunciation don't work properly, so they were on before like that, and then obviously at some point they've gone off. If you are a pilot of this aircraft, is that perhaps a battery saving feature, although I can't imagine it is. We need to know if it's functional or not. Crosswind though, the aircraft, I mean this one does do that considerably more than the Citation X, but it still looks amazing. You can even see the wind there, so 278, quite considerable wind coming in from the northwest. Okay, when we go through these clouds, just a courtesy one is the executives on board. You'll be advised to put your seatbelts on, so let's get the seatbelt signs on. There's light and illumination there, so everyone keep your seats for now when we pass through these cumulus clouds. Just be aware there will be some turbulence, and that is standard, nothing to be afraid of. Okay, there's rain as well. This is good. Nice challenge for Scotland. Welcome to Scotland, by the way. We have entered the boundary now into the country. They have their own airspace, so they don't have to rely on London Centre, unlike Manchester, which is fantastic. It's called Scottish Control. Standard name, to be honest, for an ATC service, but nonetheless excited. I think this is probably my second flight into Scotland. First time I flew into Edinburgh as well. Okay, we're taking the right hand turn, TLA. We're going to be making our way to the approach now, so you can see we're actually very close to it. I don't think we're going to be able to see much terrain. We're going to be down relatively quickly, jet down to approach height. We're going to have to go all the way down to whatever that would be. So unfortunately it doesn't give you on here. You have to program it yourself. Well, it kind of does. It says 3,000 feet. It's quite a high up approach. Let's do that. 3,000 feet, here it is. And we're going to use that speed braking set. Weather radar's coming on. We're going to keep an eye out for any alerts, any pockets of potential high or low pressure as well. So we just broke through one layer and we'll be passing through another in a second. Let's change to a linear spot. Yeah, looking pretty rough. Okay, descent checklist. Let's get the checklist done. So what we on? We're on descent. So we want windshield ice, that's on. Anti-ice will maintain that. Oh, maintain power to extinguish the lights. Right, so the lights have actually gone off again. Let's put the power up, increase the throttle, maybe that'll increase. Turn my lights back on. I don't really understand why that's gone off. Ignition when flying through heavy rain. Well, I guess we were. Let's get the ignition on anyway, because we passed through some more rain. Maybe you start below, usually below 10,000 feet, and say 20,000 minutes. Pressurization, we'll keep it at 8,000 for now until the differential lowers cabin pressure. So we'll double check the altimeter for the Habitab. I think it's 1009. Yes. Can't change it yet, but I will be. The time is done, so that's checklist complete. All the people in the vicinity, I don't think. Obviously there's planes at the airport, but nobody in the immediate vicinity of the outposts. So when we come down for this turn, we are going to have to turn half bank off. I'm hoping it goes off and we can do the full turn. Let's just turn it up. Thanks. Heavy rain. Okay, we're making a left-hand bank, going off course. going to turn back to the right. This plane has a peculiar behaviour, to be honest. We shouldn't be turning left yet until we get to the approach leg.
Edinburgh traffic, speedbird 1442, vacated, runway 24, appreciate the hold.
Okay, Edinburgh, we're really high up and we're right at the airport, we're supposed to be turning final. Speed right's coming out. I'm going to have to fly manually, I think. I don't think we're going to be able to get down in time, to be honest. I wanted to use the autopilot, but let's just increase our rate. Decided well too high up for the approach at 16,000 feet. Lights on. Just by the way, it should be pretty obvious to everyone watching. This is not how to fly the approach at all. This is this is not the correct way to do it. I'm well too high up. I would have to extend outward before going to final, and I think I might actually do that because let's just go direct to that, and then what I'll do is I'll fly out and I'll come back doing it manually, hand flow. Give us time to descend down to 3,000 feet. So one thing about this aircraft actually is, I guess it's similar to the Citation X, but because it's a lot lighter and it's a lot, let's put it this way, its handling is very different on final, so you have to put power onto the engines. You have to keep thrusting when you're touching down, so you can't idle the engines when touching down, unfortunately. You have to keep at least a small amount of power in there, otherwise the plane will drop. Like a rock out of the sky, which is not going to be good, of course, for the airframe and the wheels or landing gear. Get 11,000 feet, let's get one notch of flaps down, let's slow down. A few more. Change it like to airspeed, say about 175. It has its own NDB, let's tune that in case of a go around, we might need it for navigational purposes. Edinburgh traffic, Golf Sierra 9 Romeo 9, descending through flight level 090 for the ILS runway 24. Navigation 1 coming on into the, so you can see the localizer should set the course road for runway 24. Obviously 24 to course. And 24 on heading as well. Q&H, one thing I forgot to program, so Q&H, set standard off, and I'll go down to 1009 as detailed. About 4,000 feet almost, and then 3,000 feet is the final approach height on this particular approach list. So now we've intercepted the ILS localizer in a sense. These diamonds will have a better indication where to fly. We can use autopilot and just put it on approach, but we all know a handful of approaches are better. Okay, double check the landing lights on. We can stick the anti-ice off. Fuel boost normal. I'm going to stick them onto high mode. I'm not going to turn the APU on. Okay, thick cloud. We're going to use a combination of this map down here, and we're going to use the ILS markers on the PFD. So we use that as an indication of where we should fly.
Traffic, Roger 11 Papa, I was leaving turret, heading 010.
This is full IFR conditions, by the way. I don't know what this aircraft's rated to. I don't know whether it's rated to category 1, 2 or 3 ILS approach, but I'll have to do a little bit more looking up on the manual online after, because it certainly doesn't feel like it's capable of handling such approaches. It's such a lightweight jet, even though it's classed as a lightweight to medium size. I'm just about to intercept the vertical localizer and the horizontal as well, so we're almost on track for final. Edinburgh traffic, Golf Sierra 9, Romeo 9, just about established ILS runway 24. Okay, we have visual, thank goodness. We'll pass through the clouds now. We can actually establish ourselves on the glide slope officially. We can have a look out for the runway from the airport. I hope I'm on track for the ILS. There it is. So we have the runway in sight. We're a little bit off. Not the bother, we've still got a good distance till we land anyway, but we are currently... It's not coming up on here, but we're currently on track for it. Flaps 2 for the approach. Just slow that speed down. So that gear warning horn should be able to be silenced. There's no option for it. Usually at the second option, 15 degrees flaps, it wouldn't really... I can't imagine it sounding, although it probably does in real life, doesn't it? I don't know on this one, I know about the citation, unfortunately. Let's get the gear down, really bad approach.
Heading traffic, Roger 11 Papa, descend in flight level 040.
I think it might just be the handling of the aircraft. I'm used to the bigger planes and the bigger jets, which are, I'm going to say, arguably easier to control than this thing. Still a pleasure to fly it, of course. And I'll give him a quick call out, then I'm on final as well. Edinburgh traffic, Golf Sierra 9, Romeo 9, final runway 24.
Edinburgh traffic, Virgin 1 Papa is continuing descent 50030.
Okay, we have someone else online, that's good. Someone else, well, another pilot in the vicinity, utilising the Vatsim network, of course. Okay, the runway lights have just gone off. We need them on. There's no way to get the runway lights back on. Oh man, it's disappointing. Remember, we're not going to idle the engines, it'll probably be about 45% N1, I think. About 110 knots now, which is absolutely fine.
500.
501. We didn't actually set the minimums, but minimums are usually about 200 feet. Okay, we're established, fully established, hand flown. Yes, runway lights coming back on. Come on Edinburgh, keep those lights on. It's such a cool airport, Edinburgh Airport as well. It just looks fantastic.
300.
Gear down and locked, and then chat locked, it's down and locked.
$100. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Made the mistake of idling that engine. Reverse thrusters, really quick stop on this plane, there's not much to handle. Speed brakes, reverses. I have to say, this plane, the performance when it lands is not great. The touchdown there and then the slowdown is really quick. Like, you touch down and then the plane will just decelerate on its own. I've seen the real plane performance in real life and it's not that quick. Anyway, we've touched down, let's get the fuel boost on to normal and ignition onto normal as well. What we're going to do is taxi to the next turn out and take that off the runway, of course. Pitot heat, turn that off. Well, we landed in one piece, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Edinburgh Airport. Just please remain seated for now until we reach the terminal.
Edinburgh traffic, Virgin 1 Papa joining the localizer runway 24.
We need to get off the runway just to make sure he's got room to land, although when you're a pilot landing, I'm sure he will do it, but always wait for the call out that the runway is clear, or wait for permission to land from ATC, of course. Don't want to patronise the guy, he's probably got more hours than me, but you know, it's a courtesy. Edinburgh traffic, Golf Sierra 9, Romeo 9, clear with runway 24. Awesome, so let's get taxi lights on, let's get the strobe lights off. We don't need the APU, we're just going to go ahead and taxi straight into parking.
Edinburgh traffic, Virgin 1 Papa established ILS runway 24.
Yeah, good solid headwind on that approach as well. You can see the windsock. About 15 knots. Keep an eye out for the airplane. Oh, there he is in the distance. There's going to be a cloud layer to get through there, as you can see. And then, as we did, we came through the clouds and popped out about 2,500, 3,000 feet. Something going on with the lighting at Edinburgh Airport though. They keep switching them on and off. Must be a power shortage or something. Anyway, we're going to taxi wherever we can find. Not going to be bothered about terminal jetways. Check the map. One of the cool features about the Garmin is that it does in fact include taxiway names, and it includes parking as well, so we've got quite a lot of choice. We've got a hotel down there. We're on Echo at the moment, so let's continue down Echo and just park on the right. And these stands will be alright.
Edinburgh traffic, Croydon 1 on Papa, 2 miles out.
2 miles, we're going to have a watch his landing in a second. He's a bit far at the moment. It's saying 2 miles, so we'll give him a little bit of time to get close to the runway.
Enter traffic, Croydon 1 on Papa, 1 mile out from 124.
Right, let's go and have a look at his landing. Let's go and figure out how we can find his landing. Let's just leave the aircraft in a powered state at the moment. And we'll position ourselves right there. I might watch mine after as well. Saying he's 1 mile. I don't think his distance seems way too far. I mean, a mile. It's like a mile all the way there, isn't it? I don't know. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt and just wait for it. Thanks to everyone who's been watching this flight. As you can tell, the handling of the C-560XL is actually a lot more stable on final than the Citation X, which is obviously bigger and requires more power. But the CXL, the 560XL just tends to glide in. You know, even a little bit of power, and it's like you don't have to have much input on that last approach. So that last quarter mile approach, which is fantastic. Here's the gentleman. He's going to land now at runway 24 Edinburgh in the 737, I think. Could be an Airbus. I think it's an Airbus. Here he comes. He's all over because of the wind. Yeah, that's a cool little tram train there. Probably goes to the airport as well. Beautiful place, Edinburgh though. Look at all these like lakes around it and things. Right, here he is. Flying a Virgin Atlantic. I've never seen that livery, so he must be on the... He's not on the Airbus, I don't think. Never seen that plane before, it looks pretty cool. Nice. It's reminiscent of the 777, but there may be an A340. I don't know, someone let me know. Anyway, back in the cockpit, let's get the checklist done. So we're going to idle the engine. We have done with turn that off. It's been a good flight. I've enjoyed flying up to Scotland. We're going to put a control lock on. Wonder who's... We didn't know the APU on, we're not reviewing anything after this. Beacons. So we've got signs. Standby powers, generators. We'll leave ignition normal. Make sure you turn everything off, by the way. The circulation fans, anti-skid. Pressure source can come off. Radio's in comms, so we say back to standby mode and we turn. Yeah, standby and then turn off. There's not much to do in the aircraft in terms of features. It's a very basic aircraft, so Cessna's really reduced that workload for the pilots. Landing lights, sex lights should be off. Chrome flight displays, avionics. Fuel boosts. I'm going to disconnect the battery in a second, so let's disconnect it inside first and turn the master switch off. About the seat. Ground crews put cones down and wheel shocks for us, that's great. If they put pitos on, yes, pito tubes should be put on by pilots. And usually it would be a removable, it would say remove before flight on it. And the same with the engine cover as well. Yeah, let's get the battery disconnected, so it's down here in this small compartment. Important to do that, by the way, in case it runs out. No brakes, it sets on fire. Here and mess with the baggage, unload the baggage, there we go. So all those rich people can now enjoy Scotland, and the engine covers haven't come back on, so they might be waiting for the engines to spool down. I suspect they might be until they come off. Oh, there they are, they've just come on, so yeah, waiting for the engines to spool down before they put them on. But yeah, brilliant flight there to Edinburgh from Isle of Wight. I hope to see you all in the next one. Great to see you find us. Always a pleasure, and of course Friday, so the next one will be, I suspect, the Citation X again, but I want to do more flights in the C-560XL, which is the aircraft we're in. Anyway, take care, have a fantastic weekend, and I'll see you on the next one.